so interested in seeing what him and Quinn Ewers do this coming year. There's been so much hype.
We have a pretty dangerous running back in Blake Corum.
Maryland's got Talia Tagovailoa.
Yeah.
A little too backyard football.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy, Sean Spencer, one half of that dynamic duo that is Let's Talk Football. And it's Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, Conference Championship Saturday. And you see who I'm with. I'm with my guy. Sir. My guy that has been here with me all the way through the offseason and through the regular season until this point. My brother, Alex Loosemore. What up, Alex?
Not too much, man. Excited for all the big-time football games today. We had two big ones last night. So many playoff implications today. And tomorrow we find out who's in.
One seat is already set in the college football playoffs, and rightfully so. They played a heck of a season in the last Pac-12 season around. I do want to share something because getting ready for next year, 2024, 12-team playoff. NCAA 24 is coming back.
Yep.
Black Friday, made a purchase, people. I made a purchase. Okay, I may or may not be in hot water, but I made the purchase. All right, I got it done. There we go. All right. Yo. So welcome to Let's Talk College Football. Your boy Sean Spencer, my guy Alex Loosemore. And hey, you like my guy alluded to, there were two games that happened last night. There's a number of games that are happening today. We're gonna get into it really quickly. First and foremost, we gotta shout out one of our guys. You know, our guy Alec Schomburg. You know him, Mr. Quack Quack himself, the guy that is all about his Oregon Ducks. Unfortunately, they lost. He was unable to see the game because he is deployed. He is a Navy guy, so he was out on the water. He obviously, unfortunately, he's going to have to see that after the fact, but we want to shout this guy out, man. He's always been here for us, giving us some rants, talking football all year long. Definitely a big part of Let's Talk College Football. So we definitely wanted to shout him out. We know once he gets back, he's gonna feel some type of way.
He'll have some things to say for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And we will have them here for you on this show. But we wanted to say, hey, shout out to you. And Oregon has nothing to be ashamed of because they are definitely the second best team and in the Pac-12, but they have played far better in both of our opinions than the Pac-12 champions. So,
it's unfortunate that three of the five losses that Dan Lanning has at Oregon are to Washington, each by a field goal.
Yes.
It's just one of those things that we'll see if it continues into the Big Ten, but they just can't seem to get over the hump against Washington.
They can't get it done. What's up, Scott? Quack, quack, quack. Yeah, man. But look, let's go ahead and get right into it because it was a great game. Washington does pull it out 34-31. But Alex, and I was talking to you before, Washington jumped out to this lead where they get up and there's 20-3. You know what I'm saying? They're pretty high early in this ball game. And for a while, it's kind of like, is this going to be a blowout? Like, where you at, Oregon? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it took a while for them to get going. And even as quickly as 10-0 in the first quarter, I was like, oh boy, here we go.
Right.
And then Oregon's defense kind of woke up a little bit, forced that punt early in the second. And then all they could get was a field goal driving all the way down the field. So then I was like, okay, like at least it's something. And then Washington responds with that touchdown right away. And I was just like, okay, yeah, like they're in trouble. But it was like every time Oregon clawed their way back and took the lead or tied it or whatever the scenario was, Washington just jumped right back ahead.
Right.
And props to Washington. They played a phenomenal game and they deserve to be the Pac-12 champion.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, and we looked at this one kind of like a Heisman preview. Which quarterback, whoever wins this game, gets elevated into that Heisman, front runner and everything like that. But I don't think the winner of this game, kind of is indicative of who the Heisman is. Look, we saw what Penix did early, and he did great. But Bo Nix was down early, and he led that team in. He had that, you remember that one play where he sits there, pump fakes, gets the guy up in the air, and then takes off down the sidelines for like 30, 40 yards. And you see him start to just keep clawing, Oregon back in the game. And I felt for him because you saw him on the sidelines towards the end. He had the towel over his head. He was emotional to come from what he came from at Auburn, where it was a dumpster fire. The coach, Brian Harsin getting fired, everything was in shambles. To come here with Dan Lanning and get to that point, he has nothing to be ashamed of. But I honestly, if I'm one of the voters, I'm boosting him above Penix.
Yeah, especially he outplayed Penix last night. Penix had a lot of help from that run game. Nix had to do a lot of it on his own. Yeah. You look at the numbers, it's 3 touchdowns versus 1. They both had the pick. Penix had more yardage, but it wasn't a crazy amount more. To me, I do still hold true to my prediction from last week. I think it's going to be Jaden Daniels that wins the Heisman.
Yeah.
I mean, both quarterbacks played very well. I don't want to make it sound like Penix didn't do anything. He played a very good game as well. But to me, Bo Nix was the better quarterback in this game.
Yeah. And we saw what the score was at the end of the day. What's going on, Chris? Hey, thanks guys for supporting us. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely good stuff. Check out the Golden Boot. Think that y'all had a player on that you guys interviewed recently, if I'm not mistaken, man. Shout out to
that. I think you're right.
Yeah, definitely check that out. Definitely check that out. And look, it was a great game by both sides. Unfortunately, Oregon again takes a loss to Washington, and going forward, we'll see where they go. Washington is now the first team that is cemented in the Final Four. We've talked about how they've done as of late. We talked about kind of their struggles. When you put them up against the potential other 3 teams, you're looking at Georgia, you're looking at Michigan, Florida State, maybe, I don't know. How do they stack up? They have a great team, but how do they look?
They're clearly the 3rd team, in my opinion. And that's barring Michigan and Georgia handling their business today.
Right.
If those 2 both win, Washington is clearly 3. We'll get Washington, Michigan, Big Ten preview for next year.
Yep.
They're better than Florida State, and that's with Jordan Travis in there. They'd still be better.
Yeah.
They're better than Texas. Not by much, in my opinion, but they are better than Texas. They're better than Alabama. They're on kind of that same level as Ohio State for me, but unfortunately, the Big Ten does division champions play in the conference championship, so Ohio State gets screwed out of the chance to play us again. To me right now, I mean, I truly feel the 4 best teams are Georgia, Michigan, Washington, and Oregon, with Ohio State and Texas right outside. Right. But we're not going to get that. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets that 4th spot.
Yeah. I'm eager to see kind of how it plays out. Chris said Washington is far better resume than Michigan for current
Michigan's the only team with 2 top 10 wins.
It's going to be interesting because that looks like that could be this way. This is Eric. What's going on, Eric? No disrespect, but not better than Michigan. Not saying they are better, but it doesn't seem clear to me as much better. Much is better.
To me, when you look at it's when you go to those games that they played the lesser opponents, Michigan outside of the Maryland game, it was never really in doubt. There were a lot of games Washington played this year against Stanford, against Arizona State, against Arizona. A lot of these teams that are not on Washington's level that they let hang in the game for way too long. For me, it's that dominance factor that Michigan had that puts them above Washington.
Oh yeah. And then you look at in some of the other teams that even that they dominated against. Some of the teams that are less, maybe considered less than. Look at UNLV. UNLV was near the top, almost, in the hunt for their conference championship. And I know that doesn't say much against the bigger schools, but still, that's a quality team. And you guys trumped them without hardball 35-7. You know what I mean? So I just say Arizona's 93 and
ranked. And I'm not saying Arizona's not a good team, but they're not on Washington's level.
Right.
Washington should put Arizona away and put them away easily.
Oh yeah. And the debate is started.
Penix and JJ, that is a debate. That is a legit debate. And Washington is a damn good football team. I expect that Washington-Michigan game to be an insanely good game. That one, it does make me nervous, but Washington is the better team.
Yeah, they've got the talent, and they've showed it time and time again. They still continue to win. Regardless of how they get it done, they find a way to get it done. There was another game that was on last night, a game that featured a team that our quarterback that I've been talking about for a couple years now. Conference USA championship game. Liberty outlasted and put up 49 on New Mexico State. And I've talked about Diego Pavia. And how much I love this guy. This guy is a gunslinger. He goes out here and plays balls to the wall, not really looked at from the main media. But he was in this game. He played a lot. Liberty is just a better team. They're undefeated. Yeah. Shout out to my Virginia school. They did their thing. But I got to say, Liberty, where do they stand in this? Let's start right there. Where does Liberty go from this? I know we've talked about other teams. They still got to wait on Tulane. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, to me, they should be the New Year's Six representative for the Group of Five, but it goes based off their highest ranked Group of Five team, which is currently Tulane. Tulane's 22, Liberty's 24. And I agree with Chris's last comment there. 13-0 is 13-0. Like, Liberty is a very good football team. To me, they are the best Group of Five team, and they should go play in that New Year's Six Bowl. They got some watching to do today, see if Tulane loses to SMU, which that's going to be an insanely close game as well, in my opinion.
I'm eager to see it. Look, Tulane, led by their quarterback, Kanan Slaughter, 319 in the air, only missed 5 passes, went 20 of 25 and 2 TDs. Also had over 160 yards on the ground with a touchdown. I mean, look, he's been leading them all year long. They deserve the recognition that they get. I love that it's for a team from Virginia. This was one of those type of games where this is not a bad team in New Mexico State. I mean, look, before coming into
very good teams.
Right. They were 10-3 coming into this game and gave Liberty all they can handle. But I think the best quote, Chris said it, 13-0 is 13-0. You know
Absolutely.
What I mean? We got to give them their due respect for that. And I know, like you said, they'll be watching that Tulane SMU game. SMU is no slouch. They were also the top of higher at the top of the list, but it's gonna be a good game watching that one.
Yeah.
Alex Scott said, will Michigan still be on top next year?
It's tough to say who's going to be on top next year, just in general, because you've got so many players entering transfer portal, leaving for the draft, who's staying, who's going, which coaches are staying, which coaches are going. So to really say who's going to be on top next year, hard to say.
Yeah, definitely hard to say. So it's going to be very interesting. Look, let's go into the games that are going on today. The College Football Conference Championship games. We'll start with the noon game. Texas at ranked 7th, 11-1. Only loss was to Oklahoma, going up against 18th ranked Oklahoma State at 9-3. Hey, We know Oklahoma. They've been on a run as of late. Obviously, they had that one little hiccup. Ollie Gordon with over 1,500 yards and 20 touchdowns is going up against Quinn Ewers. He's back. Xavier Worthy. We know Brooks is out for the season, but Baxter's in there. Texas, them winning is huge for not only them, but also Alabama. Some of the ways that the conference picture is going to break down. What are you seeing in this game? And do you think Texas can get this, or Oklahoma State towards the end of the year has been one of the better teams in college football?
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And I think the 14.5-point line they have Texas winning by right now is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I expect this to be within a touchdown late, kind of similar to that Red River rivalry this year between Texas and Oklahoma. I do have Texas winning this. Quinn Ewers being back, being healthy. That connection with Xavier Worthy is phenomenal.
It is.
And that Texas physicality they bring, I like that matchup against Oak State and Ollie Gordon. So give me Texas in a close one.
Yeah, I got to give it to you. In the last 5, Texas is undefeated in those games, and now mind you, Oklahoma State's 5-1. That loss is 45-3 to UCF. You know what I mean? So my thing with Oklahoma State, and we've all talked about the running game and Ollie Gordon and how good he's doing. Just as good as the running game is, Bowman at quarterback struggles. And if he's not hitting, if he doesn't get out there early, he can have a bad game. He's got 10 touchdowns, 11 interceptions this year. So he's streaky. Hot when he's hot, not when he's not. So that's where I think this team will go. But I agree. I think kind of Texas is going to take this. Quinn Ewers making that move, kind of making a statement. And because they're going to potentially be talked about in the picture, depending on who loses or who wins later on today.
So that's for the comment above.
Oh, yeah.
So UGA loses to Bama by 3. FSU barely beats the Cardinals, and Texas wins big.
Ooh.
I mean, that's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If we're holding true to the comment that 13-0 is 13-0, you go Michigan 1, Washington 2, FSU 3. Kind of just slide them all up 1 in the rankings. Head-to-head also matters. Texas is your 4. Texas beat Bama. Bama beat Georgia. Texas is your 4.
Ooh. Ooh, man.
If that scenario happens.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that.
Now, that's what I would do. I don't think they do that.
Right.
I personally think they do Michigan, Washington, Alabama, and Georgia.
Yeah, I think they'd find a way to bring Georgia back in there.
Because they deserve, like, if you're talking deserving teams, Georgia, regardless of what happens today, deserves to be in there.
Yep.
I mean, that would be their first loss since Bama beat them in the SEC title game 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah.
So, yeah, like, I think, like, Georgia deserves to be in there regardless of what happens today. And I think they would put them in. But, yeah. And then you've got Ohio State lurking there, too. Who is ranked above Texas and Bama.
Right. So
hey, they just slide them up.
Right. So let's go right into that, because the next game on the docket at 4, the noon game is the Texas and Oklahoma State game. The 4:00 game is the Georgia versus Bama game. And let's talk about this for a second, because we know what Georgia is. That offense is unstoppable. That running game, you get Milton going, you get those guys running the ball, and Carson Beck with his array of different wide receivers and tight ends, best tight end in the country. The only thing stopping them is keeping that offense off the field, and that defense is no sleeper either. But Jalen Milroe, I mean, you want to talk about one of the most improved, if not the most improved player in college football?
Yeah, I mean, he's the most.
Yeah, from what he was this beginning of that season to getting benched in the South Florida game to doing what he did in the Iron Bowl all the way to this point, I know you're not for this, and you're saying next year maybe, but if he has himself a game today, and I mean something like 4 or 5 touchdowns, you gotta at least put him close on that ballot for Heisman, because this
absolutely.
guy has changed his game completely.
Well, and I mean, especially you look at it, we have 3 clear guys. We have Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr., and Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
So that 4th and potentially 5th spot, depending how many they actually take to New York, is completely wide open.
Yeah.
Right now, I think the front runner for that 4th spot is either Marvin Harrison Jr. or Carson Beck. So if Milroe has a massive game and outplays Carson Beck, he could slide into that 4th spot. Now, like I said, I doubt he'd win it this year.
Right.
But I think he's going to be one of the front runners next year. But he's in the argument to be in New York for this Heisman finalist ceremony. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, again, what we've talked about all year, what are the real chances of Alabama actually beating a Georgia? Can they maybe manipulate the clock? Maybe, win the turnover battle? Just keep Georgia off the field. Like, what can they do to potentially get this victory?
You got to keep that offense limited. You got to limit the number of possessions back in that Georgia offense get, and you have to make your possessions count. Mm-hmm. The other thing to look at here is we just talked about this with rivalry week, where you know the opponent better than most other teams do. You know the ins and outs of what they do. These 2 teams, despite not being in the same division, have played each other so much over the last 5 years.
Yep.
Not to mention Smart was an assistant under Saban at Bama, so they know each other like the back of their hands. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be an insanely close game. I've got Georgia slightly winning this one. I think it's within a touchdown. I really do.
Yeah, I like it. I've done it all year and I've lost all year, but I'm going to go ahead and keep doing it. I think Bama's going to get this W. I still think Georgia's going to get into the CFP, the college football playoff, but I think Bama's going to squeak this one out late in the game, and it goes to one of the things that you said before. You said it on the Tuesday show. At the end of the day, Georgia still has not beat Bama in the conference championship game.
Ever.
And we look at that year 2 years ago, and you look how dominant Georgia was.
Yeah.
And still lost in that game. You know what I mean? And They still, even though they won later, there's a certain aura. And maybe this is bigger than getting a 3-peat, them getting over Bama in the SEC championship. But until that happens, I gotta go Bama. And I think I'm saying 38-35.
I go Bama.
See, I like Georgia by about that score. I do.
All right, done.
Yeah. That's the game in Georgia saying, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. When Saban is coaching against you, there is always a chance you lose that game, no matter who they are playing against.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, I have been wrong every time I voted against Georgia. So take it for a grain of salt, But look, let's keep going down the list. Another game we talked about. We mentioned the Liberty and how will they get to a New Year's Six Bowl? Well, they're looking at this other 4:00 game. Number 22 ranked Tulane at 11-1, playing 10-2 SMU. And look, Tulane's only 3-point favorites. I think last year when we saw what Tulane did against USC, and we were all super hyped about them, and they came in this year, and they haven't got the press, they haven't got the recognition that maybe they deserved. And quietly, they're 11-1 again. They've built something out there. Should they be getting more talk? Like, what are we talking about?
They absolutely should be getting more. It seems like most of the talk this year in college football has just been these top teams. We didn't really get the hype on these lower teams. Outside of Colorado, obviously.
Well,
but any of the lesser teams didn't really get that national coverage like Tulane and those kind of schools got last year. So, to me, the difference maker in this game is going to be if SMU can stop that running game of Tulane. You've got, what's his first name here? Hughes for Tulane, Mekhi Hughes, over 1,200 yards this year. So they've got a steady run game. Takes the ball out of Pratt's hands a lot. He still had a phenomenal season. If SMU can stop the run game and make Tulane one-dimensional, I like them to win this game.
Yeah, and I mean they're gonna have to make the one-dimensional because that we know how potent that offense is. We know what it comes to, but this is just going to be a close one, and I'm very excited to kind of see and get more spotlight and have this as the not main game, but the middle of the day game. So it's right there, front and center for people to see. So who do you have? Do you have Tulane winning it, or
I got SMU? I'm leaning SMU by a field goal.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna go with you on that. I'm gonna go with you, and you're a little bit biased because I want to see Liberty getting in there. But yeah,
that's part of my reason.
Right. But no, SMU I do think is being slept on. And I think they're just as good as Tulane, and I mean that offense is something to be talked about. So yeah, I like that. All right, let's go ahead and move down the list. That's the 4:00, and then we start coming into the witching hour. The nice part of the evening. I'm going to save the best for last, and I'm going to go to a game that everybody is watching today because it has major implications. Florida State, Louisville, the ACC championship game. No Jordan Travis, and questions about Rodemaker. Is he?
Yeah, I'll take a look and see if anything's popped up today. But as of a couple days ago, Rodemaker was in concussion protocol from that targeting hit he took in the Florida game. Whew. So they were leaving it as a game day decision, is what they said.
Okay.
We're at game day now. Let's see if there's anything.
Yeah. Who would be the number 3?
I don't know who their number 3 is. And I truly think that he's going to play, but FSU is going to make Louisville plan for both quarterbacks. That's what I think they're doing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, haven't seen what's going on. They haven't made the decision yet. I don't expect them to make the decision until like an hour before game time.
Yeah, and we'll see. And now that begs the next question. We know in the NFL, we always talk about San Francisco being quarterback proof. Is Florida State, with all the rest of that talent, are they quarterback proof? I mean, LSU is a dominant team.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that.
A good team.
Yeah. If we're looking at Florida State here being quarterback proof, I don't know, but having all those really good receivers, the really good tight end, the really good running back, like you've got weapons galore and a really good defense on the other side. So what I would like Norvell to do is not make the game on whichever quarterback is in that game. Hand it off a lot to Benson and short passes to Coleman and all these other guys in that receiver room and grind out a close win. Because I don't see them winning big. I don't. Even with Rodemaker in. I think this is going to be a close game. Now, if Travis was in, I think they win big. I do. Absolutely. I think he's that big a difference maker, but yeah, I think if Rodemaker's in, I think they win a close one. If they're on the third string quarterback, I think they might lose a close one.
Yeah. And look, honestly, let's look at the production that we're losing. We had 2,700 yards from Travis, 20 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. So not only are you getting great production, but you're getting efficiency. He's safe with the ball. So you got Rodemaker in here, and let's if he plays, and even still, when you're looking at Louisville, you got to be efficient in the red zone. You're going to have longer drives that sustain you, and you can with Jahar Jordan. He has been one of my game balls throughout this year. So you're going to have to keep getting him the ball, not only in the running game, but also in the passing game. thrash as well. You're going to have to get him going. But essentially, you're going to have to hold on to that ball. Plummer, their quarterback, has already thrown 11 interceptions this year. So you cannot give Florida State extra possessions because they're going to need it. But at the same time, like you said, you get Benson in that running game going. You have a number of weapons that you can dump it off to and just get them in space.
Yep.
Louisville's going to have to jump on every opportunity to get. And even with that, I don't think they got enough. I got Louisville. I got Florida State by 7. I got Florida State by 7.
Yeah. I think that's like the most they win by.
Yeah. It's going to be hard. And even then, the question definitely goes to they're undefeated. What did it say? 13-0 is 13-0. So are they definitely in?
I feel like yes, because if they didn't want to have them win and in, they wouldn't be ranked 4, in my opinion. So if you felt like even with a win, they weren't more deserving than some of these other teams, you'd have them ranked below an Ohio State, below a Texas, below an Alabama.
Right.
Like right now, realistically, they're probably the 8th best, 9th best team in the country, somewhere in there. But 13-0 is 13-0. They had to win that conference schedule. They did it. Mm-hmm. They had to beat LSU week 1. They did it. So 13-0. If they win this conference, go 13-0, they're in my opinion. That's what it should be.
Yeah. Hey, fair enough. Fair enough. What's going on, Johnny? Yeah, look, you can't take that away from them. They have done it. They have the talent on the team to do it. You just hope that at least you can get Rodemaker in there and just be a little bit better if they do have to go up against the likes of a Georgia or a Michigan in that first game, because nobody wants to see what we saw from the championship game.
Yeah, and here's one thing: they do take who's actually on the field, who's actually on the sidelines, like whether coaches are in and out, whether players are in and out. They do look at all that as well. And here's the thing: if they're looking for the 4 best teams and they're looking for the 2 best semifinal games, I'm sorry, Florida State shouldn't be in.
Right.
But with that being said, they haven't shown that they care about the 4 best teams getting in. They've shown that they care about the 4 most deserving teams, and the path of least resistance. So if 1, 2, 3, and 4 all win, that's the path of least resistance. 1, 2, 3, and 4 will all go in.
Yep. That's where we're at. Now, down to the final game, and the game that my guy is anxiously awaiting, the Big Ten championship game, Michigan versus Iowa. I'm not trying to gas you up, but what is stopping this from being a blowout?
Iowa's defense. That defense is elite.
Okay, I agree, but their offense can't do much, and the line on this for them is far lower. So I think the line on this game is like 35. You know what I mean? And that's all.
I think it's come down a bit.
Yeah.
I think we're looking at, what do we got here? 22.5 is what we're sitting at. I like us to cover that because I think this is one of those games where Iowa's defense is going to keep them in this for a long time. I think that, well, and plus the way Michigan plays, we'll see if Harbaugh coming back throws more of that passing game back in.
Right.
But if it's that heavy dose of the run we've seen the last 3 weeks, you don't score much early, but then you pile it on late. Right. So if that's the case and Corum's getting the ball a ton, Edwards is getting the ball a ton, this is going to be low scoring for a while, and then Michigan will pull away in the second half. Yeah. I'm looking at somewhere around a 42-10 kind of game.
Oh yeah. That's kind of where I'm at. I do think it will be a closer game. Earlier in the sense that Iowa plays good ball, and obviously it's going to be a field position game. Special teams, defense are going to play huge fire. We know it, but when I think about the dam breaking for them, I'm thinking about how long until that offense gives something up. You know what I mean?
True.
Because your defense is no slouch. Your defense is very opportunistic. You talked about your boy at you gave him the game ball Sandstrill, yeah.
And he's not even the best corner.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. How quick for your corners? Because even in that Ohio State game, that wasn't it that first drive they got the pick, or was it like the second drive or something like that? They got an early interception.
For second drive, I think.
Yeah, he got that
one
early
of the first two. Yeah.
Yeah, but he jumped the route. So I'm really looking for your defense to kind of step up early, and that's why I kind of say, like your score at 42-10, I think that their defense is going to play well, but I think your defense is going to give you a couple early points that will help out. So yeah. I got you guys, for sure. For sure. Now, with that, those are the conference championships. Let's talk about it. Who was in your Final Four after everything that's out there today?
Mine is the same four that are currently in, because I have Florida State winning that close one currently. Mm-hmm. So it would be Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Washington 3, FSU 4. Yep. If FSU loses, I think based off my picks, it should be Texas, but they might go Ohio State.
And that's going to be huge. If Texas wins big, then I think it should be in consideration, even if Florida State wins, because I still don't think Florida State's going to win big if they do win. But for me, Georgia, Michigan, Washington, and it comes down to those games. For me, I would bump Texas up, even if Florida State lost, definitely. Ohio State, it goes back to what you were talking about in the last show, where you're talking about if you're putting Ohio State, you put up Texas. First, you go brand. Both those brands are tight. Then you go, who do people want to see? Primetime players. Texas, you got Quinn Ewers, Xavier Worthy. Over here, you got Emeka Buka, Marvin Harrison Jr., Latulele on defense. You got a Burke. You got a number of guys over here.
And then you add on how good that Georgia-Ohio State game was last year. You get the chance to run that back.
And people want to see that. People want to see that. FSU, Ben, what's up, Ben? FSU loses out, period.
Yeah. Yeah, if they lose, they're out. There's no chance they get in with a loss.
Yep.
Unless everyone freaking loses today. Like
he said, Bama wins, Texas wins. Michigan, Washington, Bama, Texas. Oof.
You'd have to put Texas over Bama, that head-to-head.
Yeah.
It would be Michigan, Bama for the first matchup, and Washington, Texas.
So if Bama wins, Georgia out, and they jump these two up?
I don't necessarily, like, in this scenario, it's tough because, like, you have that you have that three-way head-to-head, right? Like, you didn't have Texas and Georgia play, but Bama would beat Georgia, but Texas beat Bama.
Yeah.
So, like, in my opinion, you can't really put Bama in and not Texas. But then can you really put Georgia in and not Bama?
Right.
Right? Like,
that's if they win. That's if.
If Bama wins and Texas wins, I cannot wait to see what they do. I'll tell you that.
Let's go.
Because you got 2 spots locked. If Michigan wins, and Washington already winning. That's 2 spots locked. I cannot wait to see how this week shakes out and who is in that Final Four.
Come on now. Come on. So we would definitely see.
I'm here for it. I am here for it.
Same here. Absolutely.
As long as Michigan wins and gets in, anarchy, pure anarchy behind. I don't care.
Let's go. I love it. I'm here for all of it. Oh, man. Yo, look, we have got to move on, and we appreciate you being here. We talked about this a little bit earlier. A couple of players are playing today. A couple of players played last night. We want to know who's on your Heisman Washington list.
With team success comes individual success. So without y'all.
Yeah, buddy. So look, and we're looking at our Heisman front runners. And hey, look, Alex, let's go ahead. Let's give our top 4 right now. And who's our pick? let's start to give our pick because we know that decision will be made soon. Who is your pick? Who do you think it's going to be, or who is it going into right now? Where is that?
Okay, well, I'll put it in the order. I'll go 4-1, who I've got and in order. My number 4, I'm putting Carson Beck. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is a strong argument for that 4th spot, but I think that a loss, and even though he went over 100 yards against Michigan, it wasn't really an impressive 100 yards. He had the one big catch and then a couple other catches. Like it was a solid 100 yards, but it wasn't enough for me to push him into the Heisman. So Carson Beck 4. Number 3 for me, like I said before, Penix Jr. got outplayed by Bo Nix last night, in my opinion. And he hasn't looked great since that Oregon game. Also, that's also my opinion. But so my number 2 is Bo Nix. And my number 1, I do think it's Jaden Daniels' award. He's been phenomenal all year. I know that they've lost 3 games, but I'll read you off some other Heisman winners that lost more than 2 games. One being Caleb Williams last year. USC was 11-3, and we're in that same kind of scenario where there's no real clear guy. And that's the main reason why Caleb won it last year. But you go back to 2016 when Lamar Jackson at Louisville. Louisville was 9-4. Okay, so they didn't really care about wins and losses there. And all the way back in 2011, Robert Griffin III, RG3, Baylor was 10-3.
Yeah.
So I think this is Jaden Daniels' award.
I can see it.
Well, and Ben's comment there, I can agree with that neither really outplayed each other. Between Penix and Nix. I can agree with that.
Yeah. And then keep them kind of interchangeable, if you will. So if I'm going 4-1, my 4 is Marvin Harrison Jr. I do think that able to get him over 100 yards and a touchdown against you guys in that tough game with 2 quality corners does say something to how elite he really is at wide receiver. So I definitely think he needs recognition. Now I want to put one of my running backs up here, my Cody Schrader and my Ollie Gordon. But when you look at them, I mean, they're 1,400, 1,500 yards, albeit they had a lot of great touchdown stats. They still were just a really good player in a situation. Maybe they're their team's MVP, but I'm not going to put them up here. My number 3 in this goes actually Michael Penix Jr. And it goes along with what we've talked about this year since the first Oregon game. He just hasn't really looked uber impressive to me. He looks like he's struggled. He looks like he's kind of a run-of-the-mill kind of guy. And I just don't know that I mean, what he did earlier in the year, yes. And all power to him. Let's remember that he came from Indiana. You know what I mean? He came from a struggling Indiana team, helped them that year that they won, and then transferred and has had a new rebirth. But I just, from what I've seen in the last couple of years, shout out to what he's done, but he's number 3. Number 2 is Bo Nix for kind of the same story and the fact that he has consistently just looked great. Even from last year when he started, he got destroyed by Georgia, and then the rest of the year it was just on fire. So Bo Nix has consistently improved, in my opinion. And definitely, I think it's going to be a quality QB. But I watched that game, that LSU game, where Jaden Daniels put up 300 in the air, 200 on the ground, and it was just, I mean, I've done that. I know, on and what I hope to do. But yes, Xbox baby, let's go.
Well, that's perfect. He's putting up video game numbers.
Exactly.
That is what he's doing week in and week out.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about the best player. We're talking about the guy that has the biggest impact on the game. We saw what an impact he had last year, and he's just improved on that this year. And you've noted, the numbers and who's done it at a after having 3 losses. This guy's like spectacular, and I'm with you on that. I think he's the number 1 guy right now.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I hope they take 5 like they have the past couple of years, Because even when having the 4 quarterbacks, I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. deserves to be there. He absolutely does. Yeah. So I hope they take 5 again this year, and I hope he gets to go because he's had a phenomenal season.
Now, let me ask you about, since I did mention running backs, what about Blake Corum? What if he has a monster day-to-day? If he gets 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, does he need to be towards the end of that list?
In the discussion, but I don't know that he would go. He's got the 22 touchdowns, which is insanely impressive. But the yardage, he's not even at 1,000 yards. I think that's what would be the killer. Yeah. Michigan's gone to such a pass-heavy offense this year, while Harbaugh's on the sideline. But I think that's what kills Corum and pushes him out of the race here.
Yeah. Ben said, I disagree, Sean. Who next after this chance once again? Like I told everybody, we're gonna always blow it at the end. I'm glad Nick's will be gone next year. F him, Alex Sean Bird voice.
Oh,
yo, we love our guy Alex Sean, man.
Good.
Oh, I bet Schrader has the biggest impact in the NFL team his first year. I could see it.
Depends where they go.
Well. But that's the thing. I don't think he's going to be one of these first-round talents. I think he gets stolen later on in the draft by a decent team, though. I hope.
But I just, like, what I mean by that is I think it depends what city he ends up in, what team he's playing for. Because, I mean, you look at Isaiah Pacheco, for example. He was a 7th-round pick, ended up in Kansas City, got the chance to take the reins, and was one of the most impactful running backs in that draft class.
Right.
So it all depends what team drafts you or signs you for that matter.
Yeah.
And what the situation is there with the running backs. And I mean, injuries and a really good training camp and all that can push somebody into the limelight and they can have a phenomenal year.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that definitely something to look at. We'll definitely be following his journey from Missouri to the pros.
Absolutely.
So yes. So yeah, those are our Heisman lists. Let us know who your Heisman front runners are and where you're looking, man. It's going to be very interesting. And some of these games will play a major factor in that list. Yeah. Look, we are close to the end of the show. Nothing major. We just talked about our games, our Heisman front runners. We are going to talk about after this game. We'll talk about the Final Four, and we're also going to give our off-season or our regular season superlatives. Most improved, All-America, the best players in said conferences, certain things. So definitely tune into that to see who we looked at as the best players of this recent year. But before we do, we're gonna get out of here today. But you know what we do, and I don't want this graphic to be indicative of who we think should be in the Heisman. But you know what? Because he's on this graphic, I do think he is warranted. He warrants an opportunity to be here. So we're not going for one, as always. Going for two. Yeah, buddy. It's kind of funny that moment propelled him to where he is now. Yeah. And we look back at that game. It's funny because that was the moment Indiana won that, and then Penn State they were done that year. They tanked.
Yeah.
After
they
that
fell apart.
Oh, yeah. So, oh man, we are going for two, ladies and gentlemen, towards the end of the season. Alex, what you got, man?
Just enjoy the moment. Yep. Whether it's, obviously the games today, enjoy just watching, doing whatever you're doing. We're getting close to the holidays, getting close to spending time with family. Just everything that encompasses this time of year, just enjoy it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, this is the most wonderful time of the year. So I'm just going to piggyback on that. Watch every single game, enjoy the festivities, be around your family, watch some of these teams that you won't see all year long and just check them out, see what kind of offense they run, see what their fans are like. You know what I mean? You'll be surprised and you'll find out some new things. So yeah, definitely do that. SEC is the best.
This year was the Pac-12. I gotta say, this year was the Pac-12.
Yeah. Absolutely. Drinking beer, watching football. Scott, how many beers can you drink, man? I know you got a health problem. You can't be drinking that many beers, bro. One beer done. We're good. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, hey, that's it for us. We're gonna let There you go. There you go, big drinker. Do your thing, baby. I got you, man. Ladies and gentlemen, we gotta let you go. We appreciate you guys being here with us today, man. Let's talk college football. Conference championship games should be starting in about 15 minutes my time.
Yeah.
So definitely tune in. Texas, Oklahoma State.
It's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be a real good one, man. It's a real good one. So look, for my guy, Mr. Alex Loosemore, it is your boy, Sean Spencer. We will see you next time. Take care and happy conference championship, people.